Hello and welcome everybody, it's Karen. Thanks for stopping by. I've got a video for Whimsy stamps today. So I'm using the Penguin Gardener stamp set and the Jungle Frame die set, as well as that Slimline Fence die set. Now for my first card, I have this scrap background. I had brayered off on it with quite a shiny teal colored paint, and I thought it was kind of summery, so I'm going to use it. So I'm marking off where that jungle frame ends up going, and I'm just using the Build-A-Fence. I'm using the boards basically just as a pattern piece on my card front. So I'm just gluing these right down in a striped kind of a pattern. I thought that was kind of summery, and I'm just putting them down one after the other. I'm kind of using my craft mat there to sort of make sure I've got them fairly evenly spaced. And so once those were glued down, I used the frame to actually cut out that background, and it will fit perfectly inside that white frame. Now the white frame I cut 3 times, I believe, and stacked those up together. So here I'm just spattering some of that same teal shimmery ink onto some leaves and my background. And then there's a bit more scrap cardstock that I'm using in behind everything. So I'm gluing that to my card front. Now this was a weird size card. It ended up being 6 inches by 5, I believe, and that was just to fit that extra piece on and the frame. So all I'm doing now is I've got that frame, I'm holding it in place, and I'm gluing the inside piece down first. So the white frame is not glued in yet, so I can just remove that. And the reason I did that is because I had stamped and clear heat embossed on a scrap piece of cardstock the sentiment, that "Thanks a bunch." So I wanted that sentiment to sort of match the fence. I was going to put it to the left of the penguin. So you can see I've penciled in, it's actually the width of this die piece, and so I know where to put the die. And I'm going to actually die cut that. And so now that sentiment looks like it was already stamped on the fence, which I probably could have done if I had thought that out first. But of course I didn't. So I'm now tacking that back in place. I'm holding the frame up on top of it, and then I can pencil in where I have to, fussy cut that out so it fits in perfectly. So that's all I'm doing there, and then I can glue it in place. And then finally, I will glue that whole white frame over top. So I thought that was kind of fun that the sentiment matched the fence, and the part on the right is going to be covered by that little penguin anyway, so it didn't matter. So just gluing in the leaves, and then finally the little penguin, and he is a little offset just because he had to move over for that sentiment, but it didn't bother me too much. I thought he was just a cute little penguin on a thank you card. So that's the first card. Now the second one is a little more involved. I'm going to make this one a pull-out tab. So that piece at the top is going to be the pull-out part, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first I've done a bit of ink blending on the bottom, a little green and the blue sky. And my idea is that this little penguin is going to be poking his head through the fence looking at that worm. Bear with me on this one, guys. So it took a bit of finagling this, I have to say, but I'm going to tuck him in so he looks like he's just poking his head through the fence, and then I'll add some grass on the bottom. So I'm gluing my fence down, and I just used, I think, weathered wood to ink up that fence, Distress Ink weathered wood. And I'm just checking here to see if the fence was high enough for that die, because just like the last one, I'm going to end up die cutting this background or inset piece out. So I wanted that fence to go a little bit higher, and then I just die cut this out. And again, I've die cut the outer frame 3 times from white cardstock. Now, because this will be a pull-out tab, I've got an A2 size card and an A2 size card front, and we're going to work on the card front first. So I'm going to glue this white frame down, center it over onto that card front, and I'll put the pattern piece inside. And just pushing that down all the way, and now I can glue because I didn't glue the bottom part of that fence, I knew it was, I was able to tuck my little penguin in there. So I've just stuck my palette knife in there just to make it a little bit easier to get him tucked in. And then I'm going to push him up under the fence and hopefully not wreck that flower or butterfly, I guess. And then just glue him right down. And now, because his feet are sticking up, this was a bit of an issue for me. I just started putting grass on, and you'll see I end up adding more grass. So here's the tab. Now I've glued that little penguin down next to the sentiment. The tab itself is about 5 3/4 inches wide, I believe. I actually didn't measure it, but I think that's about how wide it was. And I'm just corner rounding the 2 right side edges because that is going to be the piece that you will grab onto, as you can see there. And so I'm sort of positioning that so that tab on the right is as big as I wanted it to be. I'm going to flip it over and keep that in place. And I'm just going to pencil in where that tab ends, where the sides are and the back end. Now, my camera died on me a little bit here, but I've put an arrow on that tab, or you could, stamp pull or write the word pull, and it's going to pull out like this. Now, to stop it from coming all the way out, you need to put a stopper on the ends. So that's this T part of the tab I'm putting on now. I put a little scrap of cardstock on that end, and I put it on the front and the back and just glued them on. That is the part that's going to butt right up where that pencil line is so that the tab on the right stays out. I hope that makes sense. So I've got it positioned where I want it, and then I'm going to tack it in place with low tack tape. And now I'm going to put some double-sided foam tape all along the outside edges. Now you have to be sure that that whole T part of the tab can slide and move freely. So I'm not putting it really close to the right hand edge of the tab. I'm keeping in mind where the back end of the tab is, where the T part is. And then on this end, I like to make sure I haven't tacked that in place because I have a tendency to do that. So it has to be able to move freely, so I'm just putting that foam tape behind that penciled line. And now to stop this whole tab from sliding out, I'm putting a little stopper in of foam tape just at the end, just a little piece, and that's where the T part of the tab is going to butt up against, and so it will not be able to come out of the card. And now I can remove all the release paper on the foam tape, and you want to hold that tab in place because it's loose right now. So I like to slide it just a little bit away from the back end there because that's where I find I'm most likely to stick it down. Make sure your card front is going or opening the right way, and then just put it in place and press down. And then it slides in and out super easily, but it catches on those stoppers that we put in so it won't come all the way out. Now I have used this Fun with Words 1 die set to just cut out the letters for the hello, and I cut out a couple of those hearts. I've put them on the fence, and I covered up his feet just a little bit more with a bit more grass, just so it made a bit more sense, I hope. So there you go, a couple of ideas for 2 little summer cards. I hope that's given you some inspiration, everybody, and I hope you'll come back for the next video. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you're having a great day.